So our solution to this is basically to create what are called virtual patients. So it's the virtual characters that are highly interactive. They're very realistic. They use a speech recognition technology. They use natural language technology, nonverbal behavior emulation modeling, cognitive modeling, and basically have some kind of natural interface where you can interact with the character. Maybe you can be able to touch them through a Wii interface or kinetic or anything, something like that. And some of the research areas that we're looking at is how do we understand how to build these mental and cognitive processes. It's very complex to know, people take for granted what we do every day in our mind, but it's very hard to understand really how to make that, formalize that and put it into a computer. And then adding to that physical aspects, we have heart rates and breathing, all this stuff that actually affects the way you make decisions and everything. So tying all that stuff together and then giving these characters personality and emotion, and then having basically in a social setting, how do you interact with somebody in a social setting, and pushing the realism of the characters in the physical aspects and how they look, and then applying this in a training environment, this is such new technology that we really don't know how to apply this in a school setting. So that's why we're working with the School of Social Work, is to put these into the classrooms and really understand how is it that, how can we use these characters to train the kinds of skills that are required. And we do that a lot through subject testing, so basically going through with the characters and trying to understand, how they work. We have lots of different scenarios that we can develop. They're both military and civilian cases. And I'll go into a demo here now. Get out of this F5. And oops, how do you escape? No, escape over here. Yes. And my, oh boy, I think I just lost my game reel. I guess F5 kills off my graphics. So, okay, I'll start this back up. So this is one of our virtual patient characters that I'm going to talk to. So he's a character that basically suffers from post-traumatic stress. And as a clinician, you want to go in and interview these characters. So how they currently do this is they have actors, they hire actors to come in, but actors are not available 24/7, and they're actually kind of expensive to keep around. So the idea is to not replace, but to augment that kind of training with these virtual kind of characters. Hello.
Hello.
What is your name?
Fred was a varsity football player. Now he's gone.
There's two processes running in here somewhere. He's going to come back. Okay, here he is. What is your name?
James Rockho.
What is your rank?
I am a second lieutenant.
Can you tell me why you're here today?
It has been suggested that I come here.
What is going on?
I do not know.
Do you know why you're here?
It has been suggested that I come here.
Can you tell me more?
There was an explosion, then gunfire. That's all I remember.
Are you having problems sleeping?
Ever since the attack, I lie in bed for hours and can't sleep.
So if you can't see this here, I'm using speech recognition technology over here. So as I click this, it basically comes up and says something. So do you feel jumpy?
Every time someone comes up behind me, I jump.
Does anything help?
Sure. Not good.
So one of the challenges of building these characters is to get the appropriate kinds of responses for the kinds of stuff that you say. So we take for granted how much language we actually understand, how much language we can process, and how easy it is for us to do natural language processing. But it can get very complex to get really detailed and very structured and very deep dialogues and interactions with these characters. And so language is just part of that. We want to be able to synchronize their expressions that they have for facial expressions and for PTSD, for, if they have some kind of issues that they need to talk about. So synchronizing both the natural language, the cognitive modeling, and the verbal and nonverbal behavior with the character to create, compelling and realistic characters, avatars that can be used in a training environment. I'll turn it over to Paul here, who can talk about how we're applying this at the school.
Thank you, Patrick. Well, let me just kind of give you a quick background. In 2007, when I joined the school, we began to develop our military social program, really as a response to the number of returning veterans and also the high volume of citizen soldiers, National Guard and reserves that were involved in the wars. What we've done is developed it's the first graduate program in military social work in the country. And we have a whole series of courses in PTSD, clinical practice, military families, the behavioral health healthcare course, and we have the military cultures course. We kicked this off in 2008 with 18 students. We've got 100 students in the program now, and it's kind of growing in leaps and bounds. Also in 2008, we began to explore with ICT, and that's when I met Skip Rizzo, how we would incorporate the virtual Iraq stuff they developed and the virtual patients into our training programs. 2009, we created the Center for Innovation and Research on Veterans and Military Families with DoD funding and Lindsay Foundation funding. And we've also received substantial funding from DoDEA, which is the Department of Defense Education Administration, to develop social work services in military impacted schools, because we have a very, very high population in LA, San Diego area, and they found that every time there's a large deployment out of Camp Pendleton, there's a huge impact in the schools with the kids' behavioral problems and things like that. And then also when their parents are redeployed or when they lose a parent in the war. 2010, we kicked off our new Virtual Academic Center, which was another one of our new initiatives. And we're the first online graduate MSW program serving a national population. And this is both a synchronous and an asynchronous program. So we're working with a company called Tutor, who is on for the 2 o'clock program. That's our partner and has developed our technology. And we anticipate having about 1,000 students in that program by the end of next year. This is really where ICT and the School of Social Work converge, because as we've moved from a classroom-based instruction where we do have a lot of clinical classes. We teach various courses on practice with families and clinical interventions. For years, we've done case vignettes. I mean, they're handwritten. Here's a case vignette, and we study them, and then students have to write papers. In our work with Tutor, we have now developed those into full-blown movies, videos. So they've hired actors. We come in, we script them, and so the students are seeing, rather than a written case, they're seeing it from a movie scenario going across several semesters. So we've got a course on lifespan development, and they're seeing their clients when they're children. And then the second semester, when they're looking at the second part of their lifespan, they've got the same client when they're senior citizens. So it's really, really unique and innovative. And of course, we're wrapping that in with a lot of the work we're doing with our military social program and also with ICT. Obviously, one of the things we're seeing with a lot of the veterans coming back, the warriors, is just a huge amount of trauma. And, this part of it is very important for us, the students, to have practice with the virtual patient prior to them going into an internship and then into their actual practice with the live patients, if you will. Because we really want them, if they're going to screw up, we want them to screw up with our virtual patients rather than dealing with the actual warriors as we're treating them. Because one of the things we're finding is that they've got to have a clear understanding of the military culture. They've got to have a clear understanding of PTSD and the different ramifications, military sexual trauma and things like that. The other part of it is that we're going to be doing, once they've got the military version, and you won't be able to see this now, you'll be able to see it down in the exhibit area if you want to, and we encourage you to go down there, looking at converting these patients from the military to civilian sector. So you'll see Justine, for example, who's in camis and is being interviewed, and you can also see her where she's a sexual assault victim and being interviewed by a social worker in a practice office. So all very exciting for us, and that's really what we're up to. Thank you.
Thank you. And in the interest of time, if you have questions, you'll be down at the booth. I didn't realize that my 2 teenage children had been role models for that Marine. That's sort of the conversations I had with them in high school. But thank you. Very exciting. But we need to go on to our next presentation. So